Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gopijana Radha Girivaradhani Gopijana Radha Girivaradhani Gopijana Radha Girivaradhani Yasodanandana Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 17, Mother Parvati curses King Chitraketu. It's 17.
Yes.
Chitraketu Uvacha.
As it is text number 10.
Eh?
Text number 10.
10?
Yes.
Oh. I couldn't remember the you know. Okay. Iti
Iti
etat.
Atat
I'm sorry. Are you sure? Virya
Virya
idishi.
Vidushi
Iti etat virya idishi.
Iti Virya Vidushi
Bhuvane
Bruvane
Bahu
Bahu
Ashobanam.
Ashokanam
Bruvane Bahu Ashobanam.
Bruvane Bahu Ashokanam
Rushaha
Rushaha
Devi
Devi
Drishtaya.
Rishtaya
Rushaha Devi Drishtaya.
Rushaha Devi Rishtaya
Nirjitatma
Jitatma
Vimanine.
Vimanine
Nirjitatma Vimanine.
Nirjitatma Vimanine
Iti etad virya vidishu.
Iti Atat Virya Vidishu
Bruvane Bahu Ashobanam
Bruvane Bhavashobhanam
Rushaha Devi Drishtaya
Rusha Devi Drishtaya
Nijitatma Vimanine
Nijitatma Bhimanine
Ichetadvirya Vidishu
Ityatadvirya Vidishu
Ruvane Bahu Ashobanam
Bruvane Bhavashobhanam
Rushaha Devi Drishtaya
Rusha Devi Drishtaya
Nijitatma Vimanine
Nijitatma Bhimanine
Ityetadvirya Vidishu
Ityatadvirya Vidishu
Ityetadvirya Vidishu Ruvane Bahu Ashobanam
Bruvane Bhavashobhanam
Rushaha Devi Drishtaya
Rusha Devi Drishtaya
Nijitatma Bhimanine
Nijitatma Bhimanine Ityatadvirya Vidushi Bhuvane Bhavashobhanam Rusha Devi Drishtaya Nijitatma Bhimanine Ityatadvirya Vidushi Bruvane Bhavashobhanam Rusha Devi Drishtaya Nirjitatma Bhimanine Ityatadvirya Vidushi Bruvane Bhavashobhanam Rusha Devi Drishtaya Nijitatma Bhimanine Ityatadvirya Vidushi Bruvane Bhavashobhanam Rusha Devi Drishtaya Nijitatma Bhimanine Ityatadvirya Vidushi Bruvane Bhavashobhanam Rusha Devi Drishtaya Nijitatma Bhimanine.
Okay.
Iti
Thus, Tadvirya Vidushi.
Atadvirya Vidushi.
When Chitraketu, who did not know the prowess of Lord Shiva,
When Chitraketu, who did not know the prowess of Lord Shiva,
Ruvane spoke, Bahu Ashobhanam, that which is not up to the standard of etiquette.
That which is not up to the standard of etiquette.
The criticism of the exalted Lord Shiva.
The criticism of the exalted Lord Shiva.
Rusha, with anger. Aha, said. Devi, the goddess Parvati.
The goddess Parvati.
Drishtaya, unto Chitraketu, was quite shameless. Nijitatma as one who has controlled his senses. Abhimanane, thinking of himself. Translation. Not knowing the prowess of Lord Shiva and Parvati, Chitraketu strongly criticized them. His statements were not at all pleasing, and therefore, because Parvati, being very angry, spoke as follows to Chitraketu, who thought himself better than Lord Shiva in controlling the senses. Response, please. not knowing the prowess of Lord Shiva
Not knowing the prowess of Lord Shiva
and Parvati,
and Parvati,
Chitraketu strongly criticized them.
Chitraketu strongly criticized them.
His statements were not at all pleasing,
His judgments were not at all pleasing,
and therefore the goddess Parvati,
and therefore the goddess Parvati,
being very angry,
being very angry,
spoke as follows to Chitraketu, who thought himself better than Lord Shiva
who thought himself better than Lord Shiva
in controlling the senses.
in controlling the senses.
Although Chitraketu never meant to insult Lord Shiva, he should not have criticized the Lord, even though the Lord was transgressing social customs. It is said, Chejiyasam ad doshaya. One who is very powerful should not, or should be understood to be faultless. For example, one should not find fault with the sun, although it evaporates urine from the street. The most powerful cannot be criticized by an ordinary man, or even by a great personality. Chitraketu could have known that Lord Shiva, although sitting in that way, was not to be criticized. The difficulty was that Chitraketu, having become a great devotee of the Lord Vishnu, Shankarshan, was somewhat proud of having achieved Lord Shankarshan's favor, and therefore thought that he could now criticize anyone, even Lord Shiva. This kind of pride in a devotee is never tolerated. A Vaishnava should always remain very humble and meek and offer respect to others. Amanina manajina kirtanya sadahari. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. A Vaishnava should not try to minimize anyone else's position. It is better to remain humble and meek and chant the Hare Krishna mantra. The word Nirjitat Ma Bhemane Bhanine indicates that Chitraketu thought himself a better controller of the senses than Lord Shiva, although actually he was not. Because of all these considerations, Mother Parvati was somewhat angry at Chitraketu. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastachari Sutarine. So this is kind of on the same pastime, which more or less the same subject. Bhagavatam is split into chapters, but also the chapters deal with different parts of that particular pastime or lesson. So this is how we can study Bhagavatam. We can study Bhagavatam by, first of all, reading the translations, get an idea of what he's talking about. And then as we do that, we can find, these first 5 verses talk about this. The second 10 verses talk about, and then we can split that chapter into sections. And then we can find the main point in each section and find the common theme of that particular chapter. Usually it begins with a theme, in the middle it mentions the theme again, at the end it mentions it as well. So this is a bona fide way of studying. You know Burijan, he did a course in 1990s, something like that, 89, 90s. And I was on it, and he was talking like that. That was before he started writing his comments on, Srimad Bhagavatam under his lotus feet, and also the surrender unto me. And that's what he does. And it's very effective. So this particular section is dealing with, where Chitraketu comes and he sees an unusual occurrence and he reacts to it. And now it's we're starting to come to the point where God, just after this, Goddess Parvati starts to answer. And she's first of all pointing out his discrepancy, and then she curses him. So that's one way of dealing with a mistake. We find that quite often in the Srimad Bhagavatam. You've got to be really careful, or otherwise, also you're in a lizard's body. You know what I mean? We're a little bit more tolerant nowadays, though. But it's like King Riga. What did he do wrong? He's a king, and he gave a cow away, and it came back without him knowing, and he gave it to another Brahman. The two Brahmins, he offered them 100 cows each if they just forget about it. You know what I mean? But they wouldn't, and that was it. So, we don't have to be that careful, but we should be careful. You know what I mean? We have to actually be a little bit intelligent. And so, I think when Krishna uses Bhagavad Gita, he always uses, exemplary examples. Something which, you think, wow, that's really severe. Why? Because, when we read something like that, we don't forget it, So, but, in a smaller way, we may also experience what Chitraketu is experiencing. And the natural thing of a conditioned soul is to become proud of what we're doing. It's, it's just the way we are. We're brought up to be like that we should be proud of being successful. And so that's although we're given a very powerful process, very expedient process, it's still that, because of that conditioning, we can actually trip up by, not being mindful of, who the actual doer is. This is the real thing, is that one devotee said to Prabhupada, he says, Prabhupada, I'm so fallen. Prabhupada said, you're the most nothing. So, that's our position. We're actually insignificant. But somehow or other, the material energies make us feel we're significant. And so, in devotional service, it's good to think we're insignificant, that we're what's the word? We're dispensable. We think everything's going on by my power. But it's not. So many times you see it happen that, things go on. And Chitraketu has got to that point where, he's been blessed by, he met Lord Shankarshan, and Lord Shankarshan glorified him for his devotional service, and then he's been traveling with beautiful apsaras all over the universe. So, it tends to make one a little bit proud of his position. So he's not quite pure. I said this the other day, remember? He's not quite pure because a devotee. Does a devotee become proud? become proud of our position in the Sampradaya, that we're under a great leader, become proud that we're a servant of Krishna. We can become proud of things like that. One person said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, you look so proud in that particular picture. Prabhupada said, let me have a look. And he said, yes, I'm proud to be a devotee. But other pride, false prestige, this is, detrimental. And so what's the point here? It's called Mayad Vyatikram. Mayad Vyatikram. It means impertinence on the path of devotional service. And a typical example is of material consciousness is Prabhupada was having a book printed. He went to Dai Nippon. And, he met with, the Japanese are very courteous, there's a certain etiquette. They all had, a few nice words, and all the directors met Prabhupada. And then when they discussed the deal, afterwards every director came to Prabhupada, out from the waist, gave him his card. And so, there were a pile of cards in front of Prabhupada. And the last one was the junior one. And he bowed and he said, my dear boy, I don't know what he said, but it says, what's your goal? What do you want to achieve? And so, his card was on the bottom of the pile. And so he took his card off the bottom and put it on the top. And Prabhupada said, just see, this is material consciousness. So, spiritual consciousness is exactly the opposite. It's, we want to, whatever we're doing, we want to be a servant. And that's a safe position, to always be in a mood of service to the Vaishnavas. Prabhupada used to think like that. Prabhupada used to think, he used to use the we, the royal we. The Queen used to use that because she was with her husband, the Duke of Edinburgh, we. And so Prabhupada he used to use. And he was talking about being my spiritual master. He always saw that he was representing his spiritual master. And that his disciples were sent by Krishna or sent by his spiritual master and to help him in his devotional service. And his mood was, with his brothers also, that when he eventually started to have a little bit of success, he got established his ISKCON, and he wrote to his godbrothers so many times, and he actually said to them, "Look, you come and you look after this part. You run this part of the movement." He didn't let go, because he knew that that's a danger. But he more or less said, "You're more educated than me. You can do this. You're all capable of doing that." But they still didn't take it up. So that was Prabhupada's mood. And in that mood, actually, we find that, so many things are actually can happen. I remember when I went to Russia, I was invited to go, and I thought, I'm on the plane going there. I thought, what am I doing? What am I doing on this plane? I thought, it's like I never expected it, to actually get this opportunity. And then when I landed, I thought, what am I doing? I couldn't work out what was happening. And even, giving class, I thought these classes are completely useless. And but everything seemed to open up. I thought, this is actually a miracle. And then after some time, I thought, wait till I really get going. And then everything started going. And so that's a motive. Mahatma, he comes here, Mahatma Prabhu, isn't he? He was 1 year in the movement. That was a long time, actually, in the early days. 1 whole year. And somehow they lost the temple president, for I don't know why. And then they wanted a new president. And so they all voted Mahatma. And he said, completely shocked, I didn't know what to do. And he says, so, I didn't want it. And so he wrote to Prabhupada and he told him his position. And he says, I feel as if, I just don't know what to do. And Prabhupada wrote back, he says, very good. He said, you should think the whole thing will collapse unless Krishna actually steps in. So, that's the advantage of not acting like Chitraketu here. Chitraketu, he was going down the wrong, and so, he got a sharp shock from Parvati. And, that's not the only way. That's not the only way to deal with something when somebody's, stepped on the toes of a superior like Lord Shiva. There's different ways of dealing with it. You don't have to curse somebody or something really, severe. Lord Chaitanya gives, Lord Chaitanya did both things. Lord Chaitanya both sometimes was very strong, but most of the time it was quite, he let the person, start to understand himself. Like Swarup Damodar, he committed Mayad Vyashikram. Lord Chaitanya, there was one widower, very young widower with a young boy. And Lord Chaitanya, somehow or other, he was very merciful to this boy. He used to actually, encourage him. The widow used to bring the boy and she would be outside, obviously, but just to really push this young boy. He must have been a devotee, obviously. And then, through Damodar, who was like his, what do they call it? He was the one who kept everybody in check, that they were following the proper Vaishnava etiquette. And he noticed that, I say, this is a problem because he's a sannyasi. And this is a young widower who's got a little boy and he's taking a lot of attention. People start to talk that maybe there's some connection. And so through Damodar, out of, what he thought was a duty to Lord Chaitanya to actually stop him from being criticized, he told him about it. It's not right that you're doing this. And Lord Chaitanya understood that, he's overstepped the mark now, as if I don't know that. And so he didn't actually say anything. And a little bit later, it was pointed out to Swarup Damodar when he was talking about, you've become, what is it? You've become Balabhacharya, he said. And Swarup Damodar thought, and then he realized, Balabhacharya line, he criticized, he was a devotee, he criticized Sridhar Swami for a comment he made in his books. And so as soon as Lord Chaitanya said that, he got the message. So there are other ways of actually correcting. And, a devotee does that. Krishna is correcting us. Look at the patience he has. We've been in this material world for millions of, I don't know, a long time, billions of births, we can say. And somehow or other, he's still in the heart. He's still waiting. He's still got patience. Still applying the material energy in such a way as to correct every single living entity in creation. Sometimes by the school of hard knocks, sometimes by, what they call it, soft as a rose. But, Krishna is very kind to his devotees, very tolerant, and he lets them actually gradually understand their situation. So this is the best way, that we gradually appreciate, because, we can't always appreciate everything. And it's, even after a long time, there's still some purification going on. And this was the case with Chitraketu. He needed some more purification. But he got a purification of a curse. He took birth as a demon, and then, he was killed by Indra, and then he perfected his life. So, Krishna wanted that. He arranged everything. And you can for a devotee. But usually it's the softly touch. That seems to work with, devotees who are not so strong as Chittiketu. So this is, mine. Advaita Acharya, another example. Advaita Acharya, he's Sadashiva, an expansion of Mahavishnu. And Lord Chaitanya was taking the part of a devotee. So for that pastime, Lord Chaitanya used to treat Advaita Acharya because he was also by years older and also by position older. He used to treat him with great respect. And, Advaita Acharya was uncomfortable with that. He thought, this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead treating me. I'm not getting any mercy. Sometimes he'll chastise and correct all others. He's not doing that with me. And so it worked out a plan that he started going to different parts of Navadvip and, preaching Mayavadi philosophy. And the devotees started realizing this and they started reporting back to Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya, he tolerated it for some time. And then he just really, became so angry and he started, beating Advaita Acharya up. And Advaita Acharya's wife said, stop, he's an old man. And Lord Chaitanya was really into it. And, Advaita Acharya were in ecstasy. At last, I'm getting corrected. And then Lord Chaitanya, when he cooled down, he said, look, it doesn't have to be like this. There's a better way. He says, actually, I'm correcting everybody. I'm dealing with you and you're getting the same benefit as everybody else. It's just that, Krishna's tailor-making our purification. Everybody's different. We noticed that. He said, it's just like the snowflake. In Russia, they have a lot of snow, right? He says there's not one snowflake the same. They look pretty much, but there's not one snow. So there's not one living entity in creation the same. We're all different. And that's a problem. Is that, we have to accommodate that difference, don't we? So anyway, let's carry on with the, we're talking about how Lord Chaitanya dealt with, and Bhagavatam dealt with it, but Lord Chaitanya dealt with it in a different way. With Swarup Damodar at least, not with Advaita Acharya. So, any other examples? Sanatana Goswami. When Sanatana Goswami left the well, first of all, he was put in prison, actually. Rupa Goswami left the service of the Nawab Hussain Shah. He was the chief minister, and Sanatana Goswami was the financial minister. And so he stopped doing his service and he put a Sikh note in. And then Hussain Shah said, what's all these Sikh notes? And so he sent some of his doctors to check him out, see if he was really sick. And they found him, like this. He was actually in a Bhagavatam discussion. And so I was saying, sure, he said, look, this is not wrong. He said, you're a very expert in your service. I want you to, you're like a brother to me, actually. Don't do this. But Sanatana Goswami said, I can't do it anymore. This is my reason for existence now, to study Bhagavatam. And so the Nawab Hussain Shah, he put him in prison. And then while he was in prison, he worked out a way to, bribe the jailer, and eventually got out. And on his way, he went to, I forget what it was, I think it was Varanasi. Is it? I think it was in Varanasi, he came to the place of where Lord Chaitanya was staying, and he just sat outside. And Lord Chaitanya could understand, actually, there's a Vaishnava here. And then he understood who it was, so he sent one of his men out. He says, go and fetch that Vaishnava in. And, Sanat told me to go along, but he just looked like a Muslim mendicant. And he came back and he says, there's no Vaishnavas out there. He says, go and have another look. And he went out again. And this time, Sanat told me, revealed himself. And so, at that point, he'd been given a very valuable blanket on the way before he met his brother on the way to meet Lord Chaitanya. His brother gave him a valuable blanket, so he was keeping that. And when Lord Chaitanya, after some greetings, and after some time, Lord Chaitanya kept looking at the blanket. Is it right? Is that this morning? Yeah. So that's and and someone thought, what's he looking at? And so this is subtle. It was, it was actually not really acting like a mendicant because he got a brand new blanket. He should live off the, whole blankets off other people. He should be a beggar. And so after some time, he realized what Lord Chaitanya was actually speaking about. And so, he got rid of the blanket. And Lord Chaitanya was satisfied. So, and Mother Sachi, another example. Mother Sachi, when Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, Mother Sachi, she, Advaita Charya was one of those who was with him at the time. And she actually blamed Advaita Charya, said, Advaita Acharya has taken away my son. And that's all she said. I mean, your mother would say that, wouldn't it? They'd be actually heartbroken that the son took sannyas. And because she said that, one day, sometime after, one of the devotees said, when will Mother Sachi get the darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? When will she be liberated? And Lord Chaitanya said, never. And everybody was shocked. And that's all he said. And then after some time, he started inquiring, why was some? He says, she's an offender. An offender cannot get the darshan of the Supreme Lord. And so I said, why was she done? And when she's offended the devotee, Lord Shiva's Vaishnavam Yata Shambhu. He's the greatest Vaishnava. And because of that offense, she can't actually achieve love of God. So how can she actually overcome that offense? So then the devotees asked, and Lord Chaitanya said, he has to go to Advaita Acharya, and then he can believe. So, yeah, all these different situations. Sometimes Lord Chaitanya is strong, sometimes he's very, very subtle. Lord Krishna is usually very subtle. The example is, or not indirect, they call it, indirect preaching. Narada Muni is also very indirect. Because in this age, nobody can actually take, if you try to give somebody some information, the false ego is so big that it's difficult for them to accept. So Narada Muni preaches like that quite often. And that's Krishna's way of preaching also. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the beginning, Krishna is indirect. And at the end, when he's preached to Arjuna all the way through, Arjuna is asking so many questions. At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, he says, that is my opinion. In other words, you've asked me, that's my opinion. And he leaves it open for him to say, but you can do what you want. Stop there, there's 5 minutes to go. There are a few things, other things.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. I'm just wondering about our ability to accept instructions or chastisements. Like or my ability to accept instructions or chastisements. You're describing how it can come in different forms. It can be heavy or indirect. But is there some way we can become better at accepting these instructions so that we can then actually get more devotees are more willing to actually tell us things rather than...
Yeah, what we should do is the instructions in Bhagavatam. If a Brahman, even if he's nasty with us, I don't know anything, we shouldn't retaliate. We should fold his hand and say, thank you very much. Something like that. We should actually appease that person. And that's for everybody, actually. And that actually diffuses the situation. If you actually do that, then the person, he can't go. And Krishna's pleased. It may be that person's wrong, but then, he will eventually realize it. So for a younger devotee, it's not really a position to correct an older devotee. But they'll the peers will do that. That's called Mayad Vyatikam. We have to expect that sometimes we'll be treated nicely, sometimes we'll be treated wrongly. Of course, we maintain our discrimination. It's not that, if we see that this is actually this is actually an incorrect telling off, you know what I mean? We accept it, but we understand that we understand what the problem is, and we keep that in mind. We don't lose the discrimination. So otherwise, if we just accept it that everything's right, then we'll start doing things wrong. We'll start acting wrongly. Yeah, it'll become our nature. So we have to have discrimination. So, and this feedback is allowed because we have Bhagavatam. This is one of the places where we can actually ask relevant questions without feeling Mayad Vyatikam. Because everybody is, just like Arjuna is asking so many questions to Krishna. And when Prabhupada was here, his disciples asked a lot of questions as well. And sometimes they were quite probing. But you said this here. And they would say it in a roundabout way. Well, you mentioned this earlier, Prabhupada, now it's this. And they would actually test Prabhupada with certain situations in society. And Prabhupada was quite cool. And he would actually, give the Shastric answer. I'll give a practical answer. So that's also there. The etiquette is that, I mentioned this the other day, there's different ways that devotees deal in. Next of instruction is that the junior, he faithful, the senior devotee, the Uttamadhikari, he faithfully serves and hears from him and renders service. The Madhyamadhikari, he also does that with the Uttamadhikari, but he actually interacts with his peers and then both the Adhikari and the Madhyamadhikari, they bestow mercy on the neophyte devotee or the Kanishta Adhikari. So we should always think we're a Kanishta. And then we're safe. And if we see that, another junior is actually, then we have to know the right way to actually deal with it, I remember Prabhupada, it was Shyamasundar. Shyamasundar was a temple president in Lamana. And he started to become slack in his devotional practice, chanting his rounds, going to Mangalati. And one of the devotees noticed this, one of Prabhupada's disciples. So he spoke to his senior, who was in between Shyamasundar and him, and he said, look, this is him. And so the senior and this other devotee went to Prabhupada, and the senior started telling Prabhupada, and he looked behind and said, what's he doing here? This was the more junior devotee. He said, he shouldn't be here. He shouldn't be reporting it. So there's a certain etiquette, if he told the right book, then that person should go to Prabhupada, because then Prabhupada can speak to the senior with and discuss the situation. But if a junior is there, he'll misunderstand the situation. Anyway.
Thank you, Maharaj. What to do, Maharaj, when, say, if I have transgressed such devotional etiquette behavior, like, in instance, junior devotee shouldn't be there with Prabhupada. So what should be the way out? What should be the solution of working on my part if I've actually transgressed some devotional etiquette?
I can't hear what you're saying. It's like, just be a bit louder.
If I've transgressed some devotional etiquette, what should be the corrective action on my part?
Well, like Advaita Acharya, you have to go to that person or that particular devotees who are in that situation and apologize. If you want to give a specific example, then I can, try and explain in that particular example. If you transgress by Maya Vyatikam, then you apologize. If you realize that there's some fault, then you actually reveal it.
And should I do something in action to mean that apology?
Yeah, you can do that as well.
Or just saying in words, actually, sorry, Prabhu.
What?
Or just saying in words that, sorry, Prabhu, I did a mistake. I'm sorry for it. Please forgive me. And maybe leave it there. Or should I do something in order to bridge the gap, say?
That's one way of doing it. If you don't have the ability, or you can't find somehow you can't apologize directly, then you can do something for the devotee and appease him that way. But that's a longer way. It's not so, it is something which will help. But the real thing is to, speak and show that genuine concern for what you've done. The main thing is that we realize that we've actually made a mistake. That's the whole point. And when a senior also realizes that we understand we've made a mistake, then he's okay, because the senior's not just interested, but he's interested in correcting the situation. It's important that he does, because otherwise, we get the wrong dealing. Yeah.
Maharaj, in general, what should be the relationship between a mentor and his mentee like?
Mentor and his mentee.
Yes.
We're servant. We're servant of the mentees. Krishna's given us an important service to help his devotees. And in that mode, Krishna can work through us. And he does. If we let Krishna work through a situation, it'll be successful. It's only when we get in the way. Get out of the way.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. We see in this pastime and in other pastimes as well, then devotees like Mother Parvati, she's distressed by the actions of Chitraketu, and then we read in the Bhagavad Gita that the person who's very dear to Krishna isn't distressed by anybody, nor do they put anybody in distress. How can we? The person very dear to Krishna is very dear to Krishna, doesn't put anybody in distress, and isn't put in distress by anybody. But we definitely understand that Mother Parvati is a great devotee of the Lord. So how can we understand these two together?
Good question. I mean, Krishna's working in this situation. He wants something to happen. So, and Parvati's service is to correct the entities. So she's quite in a right to actually correct Chitraketu. The material energy is there to correct us. That's her service. And Maharaj, same. So it depends on the service. And in one respect, because she was with her husband, we could consider that usually the wife won't interfere with something that the husband's dealing with. Nobody else actually, all the great sages, Lord Brahma, Narada Muni, they were all there. They didn't actually say anything. So really, Parvati's position, according to a man and woman in marriage life, she should have let her husband deal with it. That's one way we can say it. So, because afterwards, Lord Shiva said to Parvati, he didn't actually, just see, when Chitraketu realized he was cursed, he accepted it and glorified both Parvati and Lord Shiva. And then Lord Shiva turned to Parvati and said, just see the nature of a Vaishnava, the greatness of a Vaishnava. Even though cursed, he accepts it. And so Parvati realized, that maybe she could have acted in a different way. Arjuna, he's a devotee, he was killing. But it's a mentality that we perform the service that matters. Okay, Gandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Hey, well.
Jai.